Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
Not too bad, how are you?
I'm good too,
Got a
thanks.
cheeky look on your face right now.
It's always funny when we record two podcasts. I was like, hi Jason, how are you? And then the next episode, hi Jason, how are you?
Yeah, two on the trot. Sometimes we do two or three in one go, don't we? Mm-hmm. So we're going to be going through the Academy leadership model. So this will be in the show notes at the end, so you can actually have a look at the PDF, and we're going to go through the major components that create leadership from the Academy's perspective. And the first one, we're going to go up the model. So we're going to start with courage.
Cool.
So courage is the key ingredient that allows you to have the ability to stand out and stand true to what you believe to be right. If we don't have enough courage, then the whole model doesn't work. So we have to have the courage to do something really, really, really essential. And that is to let go of being liked.
It's a goodie.
Yeah. So most people who are really kind and nice don't do this very well, right, Philia?
I wouldn't know anyone who does that.
Yeah. So, people have gotten annoyed with me in the Academy, haven't they?
Yeah, for sure.
And I've had the courage to say, this is what you're doing, rather than patting people on the back and going, there, you'll be okay.
Yeah, poor you. Yeah.
So I think it's really important as a leader to have the courage to stand out and hold true to your values, no matter what. So this means that it's really important. Most people who don't have the courage are breaking their own boundaries.
Okay, so it's basically setting boundaries with others and also yourself and letting go of being liked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and having the courage, like if you think about the Academy and the way that we work in the Academy and how different it is to coaching, the coaching model, healing model, all the stuff that people do, it's different, right? And so I have to have the courage to stand for it.
Yeah, you do.
And it takes a lot every day because I'm not the most courageous person. I don't have necessarily the strength that like a Tony Robbins or these people who are out there just saying this is how it is, this is who I am, and this is what I stand for. Right? I'm a lot softer in my nature, so it takes a lot of courage for me to stand up for the values of the Academy and what they're all about, because they are different too. So I remember being on a podcast, my first ever podcast that I got on. Someone said, "Would you like to be on my podcast?" And I said, "Sure." And he asked me, "What do I do when I am about to get up on stage in front of thousands?" And I've done this. I've been on the stage in front of lots and lots of people. What do I do? And I answered him this. I say, everything's going to fall apart. I'm going to forget everything. I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm going to be humiliated. And he looked at me and he said, that's the complete opposite to what the coaching industry does. And I said, yes, it is, and it works. And he didn't put me on the podcast.
So you never uploaded the episode?
He never uploaded the episode. And it was a really challenging thing for me because I was like, okay, it's the first time someone's asked me to be on their podcast and he wouldn't put it up simply because it was so not in his wheelhouse to understand, because he didn't really ask me why and how. He just went sort of a bit sheet white and said, this guy's a little bit of a lunatic. Where just to give you a little bit of understanding, guys, is what I do is I communicate to all those hidden voices that are already there anyway, and accept and acknowledge them for what they are. I don't try to be anything other than that. So I don't need to jump into an ice bath, jump around 101 times like the coaching industry does to make myself be in quotes, the zone, to make sure I do a really good job when I'm standing in front of people. I just show up.
You also don't stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm amazing, I'm great, I'm beautiful. Whereas you think the opposite in your head, like, so positive affirmations and stuff.
I just don't, they don't work. So I just honour the affirmations that are in front of me. And if those affirmations are in front of me, I voice them in my head. And what it does is it takes all the pressure off. And the reason why I do this, guys, is because the number of coaches that would come and see me behind the scenes, they all had so much pressure on themselves. A couple of them got cancer from being sick because they were putting this whole fake it until you make it model up, and then they started getting confidence over time. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to show up as me. I don't feel good sometimes. I showed up this morning. I wasn't in the best shape this morning. That's the shape I was in. I'm not here to try and be something other than what I am at the moment. And that's true courage.
Courage, yeah.
That's the highest courage that you can have, is being yourself. And that's what a true leader is meant to be. That's the model. It's the start of the model. Now, there are people in the academy who've joined our academy, and they're showing up on Facebook, and they're realising, doing the work with us, how out of integrity they've been. And they basically think, geez, Jay, you're the only person that's actually showing integrity that I know in the industry. These are people who are looking at the industry in a really big way. And people encourage people to lie, basically. Lie so you can get authority.
And also just like hide what's really going on too. It's like, even when we say like, how are you, we don't really want to know, right? Like usually it's just like that's what I learned first, like moving overseas. Like first of all, I was confused that people even ask me how I am. Like nobody does that in Germany really, unless you know them. And then it's like, okay, so what I have to say is good.
Yeah, that's the Australian rules.
Yeah, and that's the same everywhere I've lived so far. Like it's the same in New Zealand, same in Canada.
Yeah.
It's, interesting.
So I remember one day after I was out of the psych ward. By the way, I was in the psych ward in 2000. It was a long time ago. Before I was in it, actually, the lady who was helping me get myself completely crazy, she said to me, I want you to tell people your story. I want you to go up to someone that you don't know and just start talking to them about what happened in your life. Right? So I did that a couple of times, and people Canadians are so polite. So they'd be sitting there just going, how do I get out of this conversation? Here is this crazy guy talking about false memories and all this stuff that they were throwing in my head. And I was telling them all these lies, basically, that were from the therapy model that I had that was just bullshit. And I had to go and tell people. It was the most uncomfortable thing, because people don't know how to deal with people saying what's really on their mind either, because we're not taught. Hey, Billy, how you going? Not so good. You come in the morning and say, you're not so good today. What's going on? How many times have I said that?
Oh, yeah. A lot of times, yeah.
Right? And you'd be like, yeah, this is going on. I'm like, okay, do you want to talk about that? Okay. And then we talk about what was happening. Because you naturally, from an employee perspective, it's like, oh, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to be out of shape. You know what I mean? Like, so we think all of these things that we don't want to show what's going on truly. For a fear of rejection.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like vulnerability as well. Yeah.
And look, one thing I figured out, the more vulnerable I am in the academy, someone called it an anti-Facebook. this guy he said to someone, someone asked him what the academy was like. It's an anti-Facebook. Like, okay, what does that mean, Dom? Right? And he said, well, everyone says what's really going on. Mm-hmm. Everyone tells the truth. No one lies. And then when someone tells the truth, everyone loves them for it. Mm-hmm. That's what happens in the academy. That's what it's like on the inside, guys.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a shock to the system when new people join. It's just like, what? You're going to be okay saying that you're not okay? Mm-hmm. Of course. And it's like that statement, be okay to say that you're not okay around one day of the year for mental health issues. Mm-hmm. We do it 365. And it doesn't mean that everyone's having a hard time. We get people to celebrate their wins, celebrate their problems, and just basically get people to open up.
Mm-hmm. That makes such a big difference.
It does.
To everything in your life, And obviously there's situations where it's easier or harder, and you don't want to do, like what you just said, just go up to a person and just tell them their life story, like Forrest Gump style. But it's, it's like with in your relationships, in your with your friends, in your intimate relationships, with your family, where you can, like, it's good to actually practice this, and be really honest, and then you'll actually see who is really there for you as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important, because most people aren't. Mm-hmm. That's why it's the anti-Facebook. Mm-hmm. Because on Facebook, someone puts something up, and people post stuff up to get validated, not post stuff up. So if someone keeps posting something up, I'm having a hard time, I'm having a hard time, I'm having a hard time, I sit there and go, do I just respond and say, maybe you need to get some help, instead of asking for Facebook love-ins? Mm-hmm. Because it's not helping. Right? Oh, you look amazing with your purple hair or green hair. It's just like, well, it looks a bit strange. Mm-hmm. But people don't do that. People just say what. I'm not saying purple or green hair is that. It's like people not say what's on their mind to other people, and then there's the keyboard warriors who want to disagree with everything. Yeah. But they would never ever do that to your face.
Yeah, that's true.
Very easy to type it on a keyboard and be tough and rude, but not in your face.
And a lot of the time, that's people anyway that don't even have proper kind of a picture of themselves. They have a picture of a dog or whatever. So you don't even really know who's behind that keyboard anyway. Yeah,
that's right. And I think what's really, really important, guys, is that it takes a lot of courage to stand up and be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. And most people don't know what that is, by the way. So this idea of being true to yourself is like, I'm being true to myself and I'm a superhero, is usually what people say when they're being true to themselves. It's being you packaged everything up and you're showing more of yourself than you normally would. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about oversharing, by the way. Oversharers pour oil over people. It's sharing what's happening in your world. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think this is really, really important, is that I've had so many comments over the years with the Academy. I really appreciate your honesty and your what's really going on for you at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think this is essential. If we can start being more real, then the world will be more real for us. And that's one thing I learned as a therapist, people, and as a person. Everyone would tell me their deepest, darkest stuff, and it would be like, yeah, Jason's going to talk to me or be an ear for the problems that I have. And I've heard some stuff that you would not give your left arm for with people's lives. Mm-hmm. And for people to have the courage to actually communicate to me around what's happened in their life without the judgment, mm-hmm. right? And finding a way to have the courage to turn life completely around. There's a guy I think he's on my podcast, Mike Halliday.
Yep, it was the first ever episode, I think.
Yeah, and he had, his wife committed suicide, and he came to see me, and we got him on track straight away. And there was a whole lot of vulnerability that he shared with me around what was going on in his head. Mm-hmm. Right, and we need to actually know how to have that courage as a leader to to be able to lead differently in this world, to become what we need to be. I remember there's a lady, her name's Catherine Nichols, and she saw my leadership model and she said, "This is the best model I've ever seen. Can I use it?" And I was just like, she looks after hundreds and hundreds of people. She's done it for years and years and years, and she looked at my model and I was like, little Jason has a little model here. That's the way I think. And she said, "This is ridiculously good." And knowing how to use this model as a pathway, and it's nice to know. And she said, "What do I need to do?" I said, "I just love it if you'd use it." And I think it's really, really important. Now, these are all concepts that we want to share with you in our podcast. I can't tell you how to make them happen, right? There's a way. This is what we do in the Academy. Help you build the courage, help you model the behaviour, have the emotional connection, communication, wise beyond knowledge, focus, drive, humility, integrity, vision, and awareness, right? So we teach you how to do that. It's not something that you're going to get off us and say, "Okay, now I've listened to Jason's podcast, now I have the courage."
It takes a while as well, you know. It's it's something that you continually work on, and it'll look a little bit different for everyone as well.
Yeah, it is. And you know where your courage is meant to lie, right? So you might not have the courage in your personal relationships. You might have the absolute amazing courage in your life at work. You might have courage in the family. You might have amazing courage with your finances, to be able to take a leap of faith on yourself and go for something that a lot of people don't go for in life because they're too scared. So you might have courage in different areas and be lacking in courage in others.
Yeah, that's very true. So courage is, because it's the bottom of the model, would you say that's the baseline of everything else, or is it like they kind of work together more?
Well, the bottom and the top of the model are the actual major cornerstones. So the bottom of the model is actually the most important. So what I want to hand to you guys who are listening right now is the courage part. If you don't have that, the whole model breaks. Right, so everything falls down to this, because I'm running everything that's sitting on here is actually based on a system called the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life. So everything falls down to the bottom. So all of the pieces are meant to drop down into courage. Every single thing filters down the tree, and so courage is like the roots. Right, so if we're looking at the whole model, your modelling behaviour, your communication's good, your emotional connection's good, your wise beyond knowledge, all filters down into the courage.
So it's like basically having the courage to embody all the other aspects in the model?
Yeah. So it's the essential ingredient. So it's not the bottom. It's a great question, Philia, because it's the one that actually is going to pinpoint everything that you are. So everything drops into it. So from a Kabbalah perspective or a Tree of Life perspective, it's like all of the stuff that is sitting on the top is like a snake or a lightning flash, and it filters down all the way down to the bottom. And our earthly us is courage.
Cool.
Right? So the ultimate idea of courage is belonging.
Rather than fitting in.
Yeah.
What you explained to me was so beautifully, like fitting in is like changing yourself to fit in a way that others want you to be and expect you to be, so you're just changing yourself. And then belonging is actually being yourself, and then belonging to yourself and belonging into a community by being yourself. So that's what the Academy is. Yeah,
and it's like when you belong, you can be out into the world, walking in Woolies, walking down the street, and you're in a place of belonging. They're very, very different aspects of people. One shapeshifts into the type of person that everyone needs them to be in every given moment, and then the belonging part may still do that, but they're doing it on purpose, purposefully, making the room a better place simply because they know how to feed it well. Yeah, rather than out of the need to be, to just
fit in and be part of it, and like I need these people, and if I'm not who they want me to be, they might not want me.
Yeah. So belonging creates a sense of fullness within your heart, and fitting in creates a sense of emptiness in your heart.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right, and people feel alone when they're fitting in.
You can be in a room full of people but still feel alone.
Yeah, and that's a person fitting in. And they say they don't fit in, and the reason why is they're not sharing of themselves. That's the only reason why. So all the listeners who are out there saying I don't fit in, that's because you're trying, either you're just out of balance in an environment, or you're trying to fit into an environment that actually is not where you're meant to be. Right? So, imagine how many people, Philia, in this world are doing jobs that it gets to Friday and they're like, thank God it's Friday.
A lot of people.
Right? Whereas I don't know what day it is half the time.
Yeah. Lucky you've got your calendar.
Yeah, lucky I've got my calendar. I'm like, I know it's Monday today. Because my days are filled with a day. I get to be myself all the time, and then I get to learn to be myself, and then anytime I fit in I feel like I'm fading away. And this is what people feel like when they're doing that. So as a leader, how do you lead well when you have to have the courage to stand for the values of what you're leading, and then at the same time your individual leadership? Like for me, I run an academy, so I have to lead in a certain way, and then I have to lead in a certain way in my private life. So the cool thing for me is I do both at the same. I don't do anything different, and that's because I'm belonging. So I don't have to switch hats everywhere I am. So there's 6 main areas of life that we do, that we have to switch our hats in, and we change ourselves accordingly. And when we do that, it's awful, because we have to go, okay, I'm with my family now, I have to put this hat on, chonk. I'm with my friends, put my friend's hat on, chonk. Okay, I'm with my intimate partner, here's my intimate partner hat, here's my purpose hat, here's my health hat, and
The money.
here's the money hat. So what do we do here? So if we have to change who we are constantly in those areas, we're going to struggle. So we have to have the courage to be more real, more able, more seen as a leader. And I'm going to give you a really important tip. I had a lady. I remember a lady. I wanted to get on a live on my Evolution page, and she didn't want to do it. And I asked her why. She said, well, people need to see me a certain light. I don't want to be what you see. And I was just like, oh, the poor thing. So she couldn't be vulnerable. She couldn't share what was really going on because people needed her to see her. She needed to be seen a certain way for her people. That's awful.
Yeah, I think it's very common.
It's actually awful and normal. That's the awful thing about it, is it's the most normal thing that we have in our existence is, okay, people need to see me a certain way, so I will deliver who I am as a leader to make sure everyone sees me the way that I need to be seen. And do you know what that creates? Division. It means the leader is unreachable to the students. And I don't know what people think about me in the academy, because whether people are telling me the truth or not. I hear a lot of good feedback though. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Sometimes the silent feedback could be the feedback I might need to hear. We don't know sometimes. One thing I quite often hear though is people saying thank you for being so honest and transparent.
Absolutely. And you do that, like if something's going on, like you share it. You even share it in like a class or a Q&A or whatever, and not to have a pity party, but just to get people to understand you.
Yeah, and I think if you don't share what's going on in your own world, how are people going to get to know who you are? Because one thing I've had a lot of people say this to me on repeat: being a leader is lonely. It's only lonely if you're not sharing who you are. It's the only time it's lonely.
Yeah, you're not lonely, are you?
No, look, I have a sense of aloneness, which is very different. The aloneness is more about having to explain myself a little bit about what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it and the way I feel it, which is a little bit different because I'm teaching everything a little bit different in the academy too. So you know how I had to explain to you guys all the digesting everything in the academy is very, very different. So then when I'm going through something, usually people, it's so different even when I have a year 3 person say, I'd say something and they sort of know how to support me based on knowing how the frameworks work in the academy now. Whereas a year 1, are you okay? I hope things are fine. Right? Having a massive amount of concern, and the other people like, yeah, he's sitting in this place, he's going to work on this.
Yeah, and instead of trying to make you feel better and fixing you, just like letting you be.
Letting me be. And so when people get that with the academy, people, you know, I'd say, oh, I'm really frustrated right now, or I'm feeling alone, or I'm feeling sad. And the year 3s are like, oh yeah, he's going to do some work here. Because they know that I'm going to work on the particular area that I want to work on to find out more about myself. And the year 1 people are still trying to adjust to a whole new world of thinking and being. So it's a challenge, you know, to know from my perspective how to feel comfortable to be heard properly. And this is why a lot of the time when you have the courage to explain what's going on in your world and people don't actually listen and hear, because they only can hear by the lenses of their own awareness.
Yep. So they hear you, but they don't really understand. Yeah.
That's right. And this is different from a person in victim state. So there's a lot of people that I've worked on who've said, I'm being completely misunderstood right now. There's a reason why they're being misunderstood, because they don't understand themselves.
You don't understand me.
Yeah. Whereas I sit there
do that sometimes.
Yeah, I see it so often, and I sit there and go, okay, they're in the no one understands me. It's just like they don't understand what they're doing themselves, so how can they be understood by other people?
Yeah, or it's like this... What the hell do you know? Like, you don't know me, you know? Yeah, that's more what I'm doing.
Yeah, I remember one person, he was so angry with me one day, and he said to me, he said it in his head, and I turned around and said, by the way, I do understand what you're going through, and blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me with a shock on his face, because I read his mind, and he was just like, oh, he does know what's going on. Because he was so angry. Oh, you don't know me. That's the biggest misnomer. When you are that pissed off that someone said something to you, because I'll give you a tip. You get the right person to give you information, they probably know you better than you know yourself, and they might be giving you some insight that you just don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the flip side of courage. Are you courageous enough to take feedback on and change your life?
And then, just... being open as well, and being open about what's going on.
Yeah, and being open. So the people who are saying you just don't understand me, they're actually saying I don't want to change, basically. And the number of times that people have gotten pissed off with me in the academy after I've told them the truth, had the courage to tell them, and then they had the courage to do something really important after they realised I wasn't being an arsehole, I was being honest. They apologised because they realised they didn't want to change at the time that they were hearing the information. So I think you have to learn courage, guys. It's not something that we have in our wheelhouse. So the emotion that sits underneath courage, the opposite is fear. This is why leadership is built on a really difficult model. Right, so most people put people into fear as leaders and put them in a fear baseline so they can control them.
It makes sense, right? Like, because as the leader, if you want to stay the leader, then you actually come from a place of fear too, right?
Yeah, you do.
Because you want to stay in control, and you want to, you make them scared so that you can control them,
That's
so that
right.
they can't take over you.
Yeah, and it's a real challenge as well when someone's leading you, and then you feel good, and then the leader goes, well, let's find another problem. Right? There's always going to be problems. I'll see problems with people all the time. Right? It's knowing how to get people to celebrate where they are before you move them into the next stage. Because leaders can keep people in a dysfunctional space. And this is why individual leadership and a leader has to be really responsible for the way that they lead. And you have to have the courage. I love the fact that people are willing to call me out and say, hey, Jason, I wasn't happy with this. And I'm like, oh, so tell me about that. So I want to know why they're unhappy so I can figure out the reason why things are going on. And I think we need to have the courage to call out the leaders too. And ask questions. And the ones that get really pissed off with you, they're hiding something. Right? I remember this one lady who was doing personal development. This person asked them just a really lovely question, and the guy got absolutely hammered. Like, he just asked the question, why don't you just answer it? And she couldn't help it. She just wanted to hurt him because it was questioning what she believed. And we all need that. We need to have the courage to question. This is the most important thing that we have to do in our own psyche, question ourselves and question leadership, question how everything's being done right now. And if we do that well, then we're going to get an ability to have an internal baseline of courage. Courage is connected to anger, by the way. So it's something that we have to learn how to do. Two big emotions: anger, authoritarian-based leadership is anger, and courage is the lion that roars. So lion's not worried about the rest of the animals in the kingdom. They're not frightened of anything. So we have to actually have the courage like a lion, without the arrogance to put people in their place. That's a really challenging one. So it's knowing how to use both anger and fear appropriately, because that's what controls people in leadership in leadership roles.
Really interesting. I like this is a great baseline to have for the model.
Yeah. So hopefully, listeners, you got something out of this. Hopefully you have the courage to take the life that you want to lead in it. I think it's really, really important to get help if you don't have the courage. And if the nice people don't stand up, then this world's not going to change. So you got to get out of your fears, have the courage to be the person you're always meant to be, and let's liberate this world in a courageous way so we can create leadership in the most humane, beautiful way possible in this world.
Beautiful. Thank you for the chat today.
Thanks so much, Philia.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and also our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't bite, so add me as a friend. And if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.